We are back with my buddy Francesca Fiorentini. Let's get right into it here. Not sure if you saw this, Francesca, but Elon Musk, the details of his procreation have come out to the Wall Street Journal. I had said before, like, there's no evidence that he's ever had sex, right?
No,
because
still none.
In this article, there is a claim by Ashley St. Clair that they had sex. So we now have one piece of evidence. I still think we need a little bit more corroboration to determine it.
Do we?
But unfortunately, this is where we have to go in this conversation. Elon Musk having sex and his sexual proclivities are the subject of it. So trigger warning, gag warning for anybody.
Is sexual proclivities or is reproductive proclivities maybe a better way to phrase it?
That's probably a better way to phrase it, because it's also just like an absolutely insane ideology called natalism that I want to explore. But let's go through some of what the Wall Street Journal found. This is a pretty insane piece, and it looks like the Journal is the paper that's getting all the leaks now. Like Maggie Haberman's on the outs in the New York Times with the Trump administration. So Wall Street Journal is where they're going, at least thus far in the first less than 100 days. But here's how the article opens. It's entitled, "The Tactics Elon Musk Uses to Manage His Legion of Babies and Their Mothers." Ashley St. Clair wanted to prove that Elon Musk was the father of her newborn baby. But to ask the billionaire to take a paternity test, the right-wing social media influencer had to go through Musk's longtime fixer, Jared Burchell. I don't want my son to... well, you find out later he's the
cum carrier.
What'd you say?
He's the cum carrier. I mean, he's the sperm boy. He carries it, because we know that he like has offered his semen to multiple people. You can't carry that much semen around. It gets everywhere. You got a
refrigerated suitcase.
They're calling him the cum caboose. They're calling him the cum caboose.
The cum caboose. Oh God, that is don't put that into search.
I switched to the private link right before we started saying the word cum. I'm very happy about that.
Yes, good job, Russ. Quick on the draw. But okay, so a longtime fixer, Jared Burchell. "I don't want my son to feel like he's a secret," St. Clair told Burchell in a 2-hour phone call in December. Burchell offered St. Clair some advice. His boss was very big-hearted, kind, and generous person, he said. But Musk had a different side. When a mother of his child goes the legal route in these discussions, that always leads to a worse outcome for that woman than what it would have been otherwise, Burchell told the 26-year-old. Plus, he said Musk wasn't sure the child was his. It was the first such conversation for Burchell. His public job is running Musk's family office, and he recently helped organize Musk's more than $250 million push in support of Donald Trump's election. Behind the scenes, Burchell also manages the financial and privacy details Musk wants for the women raising the world's richest man's babies.
Now, this is some family values.
Oh, yeah. Musk has had at least 14 children with 4 women, including the pop musician Grimes and Siobhan Zillis, an executive at his brain computer company Neuralink. Multiple sources close to the tech entrepreneur said that they believe the true number of Musk's children is much higher than publicly known. Screaming. just endless screaming when we hear about that.
Can you imagine? Look, okay. In Argentina, during the Dirty War, they kidnapped people who were pregnant. They had their babies and then they disappeared, killed the mothers, right? And then they were given to like an army officer to be raised, right? And these kids then found out decades later that, oh my God, my parents were killed in the Dirty War.
Right.
That's bad. But imagine finding out that Elon Musk is your dad. Like 20 years on, I'd be like, I wish it were a general from the military junta. Why? Like, it would be so disturbing.
It would be something that would convince me to get Neuralink so I could get brain damage so that I would forget that fact.
100%.
Okay, just scroll down a little to the part that starts with "in Musk's dark view of the world." This is where, to me, it gets from like a salacious story to one that's concerning. "In Musk's dark view of the world, civilization is under threat because of a declining population. He is driven to correct the historic moment by helping seed the earth with more human beings of high intelligence, according to people familiar with the matter. His businesses are set up to serve the idea. The main objective of SpaceX is to build a rocket ship capable of getting to Mars, and his other companies, including
I'm sorry. That's not what it's doing.
No.
They're trying to monopolize sort of low Earth space transit and stuff like that. The Mars thing is for rubes.
Yeah. But that's how the journal describes it. But Musk refers to his offspring as a legion, a reference to the ancient military units that could contain thousands of soldiers and were key to extending the reach of the Roman Empire.
Anonymous must be so pissed right now.
I mean,
I thought they were the original legion.
If you heard a man on the street talking about his children as his legion and a Roman Empire that's going to take over the planet, you would think that person was having a mental episode. Yeah?
I just there's no, I'm sorry, I hate to be just a bleeding feminist here, but the idea, only men do this kind of crap. Number one, right? Like the idea that your offspring are precious and amazing, like the guy who inseminated a bunch of his own patients, the IVF doctor, with his own semen because he felt like he needed to have a bunch of children, lied to the families. I'm just like, this is a pathology of fragile masculinity. Like, calm down. Everything's fine. You don't need to have that many children. Your sperm is not sacred, sadly. Sorry for the Monty Python fans.
Yeah, there's this guy, Jan Karbat, a Dutch fertility doctor, who in 2019, DNA tests revealed that 49 people conceived using donor sperm matched with Karbat. By 2020, at least 61 offspring have been matched with Karbat, many of whom were connected via social media. Suspect it could be upwards as much as 200. Jeffrey Epstein, I just want to say, had the same sort of I want to inseminate as many people as possible because I want to live on through a legion of the people that I've brooded.
It's narcissism. There's also this Netflix documentary called The Man with 1,000 Kids, which talks about this. It's about this guy who's a Dutch blonde man.
That's this Karbat guy.
Oh, it's the same person.
Guy, yeah.
This guy's named Jonathan Major.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, there's different. This is a whole online. Yeah, this is a whole online right-wing community that it starts not being right-wing, and there's a lot of stuff about natural procreation and natural foods. I mean, it's RFK adjacent.
Always with an anxious eye at minority birth rates.
Well, that's where I wanted to get to. Now. Yeah, it's fine. Just there's a part of this article that addresses that, but these are always, they seem to tend to be all white men obsessed with this concept for the most part, with the natalism piece, and it's also a huge issue. This guy Jonathan Major highlighted in this, also a Dutch man, I think, maybe it's the same person, I'm not sure, but I'm not, we'll look into it. He was donating his sperm to hundreds of couples across the globe, but also within the same communities. And it presents a really dangerous situation because there are psychological analyses that show that sometimes people who, siblings that have never met, they're drawn to each other because of shared traits and may experience attraction. And there's a possibility that they could get together and procreate, and that creates a really dangerous genetic situation.
Ooh, next White Lotus dropped.
Yeah,
that's different people, by the way.
Different people. So
different
there you
Dutch
go.
guys.
Different weird Dutch guys. But to just bring it back to the idea that this is about racism and why this is an important story, in my view, to talk about this natalist thing, in the same way that it's important to talk about the network state and the way that the tech oligarchs are obsessed with the idea of this monarchical presidency and how it fits so neatly with Project 2025. This natalism stuff is also a very neat fit into both Christian and white nationalism. Let's go to the part that starts with Musk has warned that civilization is going to crumble. Musk has warned that civilization is going to crumble if people don't start having more children, a view popularized as pro-natalism in right-wing circles. The pro-natalism movement is composed of people concerned about the birth rate and eager to implement policy and cultural solutions to the problem. Martin Varsavsky, a friend of Musk's who has founded a large chain of in vitro fertilization clinics in the U.S., said he has spoken to Musk about the risks of failing birth rates. Without babies, there's no future, blah, 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 blah. Speaking to an audience at an investment conference in Saudi Arabia last year, Musk laid out the urgency of the matter. I think for most countries, they should view the birth rate as the single biggest problem they need to solve. If you don't make new humans, there's no humanity, and all the policies in the world don't matter, Musk told the crowd over a live video. When the interviewer joked that Musk was doing his part to address the issue, the billionaire agreed. Yes, I am. You've got to walk the talk. So I do have a lot of kids, and I encourage others to have a lot of kids. Separately, Musk has said that he is concerned about what he called third world countries having higher birth rates than the US and Europe.
Yeah.
A person with the conversation said, one of the most important ways to change these dynamics, he has repeatedly told people close to him, is for educated people to have more children. Educated. Now I'm going to open this up in a sec, but I want to make sure people understand this point. This is how Elon Musk views the rest of the world, because he understands that the world population is growing. That's not in dispute. But when he talks about birth rates, he means certain kinds of birth rates. Certain kinds of people are not procreating enough because we have to outnumber Black and brown people. That is what is implicit there. And yes, in the United States, it's around like 1.66 children per woman is the average. 2.1 is the figure that would be needed to sustain a population. There's a great piece on this that's written by June Sternbach on their Ghost. It's like a Substack thing where I encourage people to read that. But that's true. But that's when you exclude immigration. So they want more white babies, basically. And this is a eugenicist view that is held by the world's richest man, who was installed in the government by the president of the United States, who has the power to wage war in these countries that have the population growing at a rate that is unappealing to Elon Musk and the other white nationalists. Like, this could inform why they cut off USAID and didn't care about all those babies getting HIV. This informs the continued support for the Israeli genocide in Gaza. This also informs the rolling back of women's rights, the getting rid of abortion and reproductive capacity, because they want women to not have as much control over whether or not they get pregnant or not, so that they can recreate the kinds of babies that these freaks envision. So these fascist movements all have like the same root, right? And it's just disgusting that Elon Musk got so rich based off of government subsidies because of the short-sightedness of Democrats, frankly.
Welfare queen.
Yeah. So
he's a welfare queen, just kind of spitting out a bunch of babies to collect a bigger check from the government. I also think we need to spread the word that Elon is a virgin, just like he is a bad gamer. So put that out there, because he will absolutely respond to it and get upset about the suggestion.
No evidence.
But there is no evidence that he's actually, God, I can't say what I want to say, but, that he's actually, like he's done it.
That the P has gone into the V.
Yeah, the P has not gone into the V in E's world. I actually met baby Musk. I was on a Piers Morgan panel the night before the election, the day before. I was on with Ashley St. Clair, and I'd never met her, right? And I was just like, she was just kind of squawking in my ear a lot. And like Piers didn't even direct real questions to her. The best part about the entire thing was that after, there was a little baby outside being watched by what seemed to be her mom. And he was kind of climbing on some stuff. And I was like, oh, he's so cute. And then a couple months later, I realized it was Spawn. And that was absolutely terrifying to know. But, and this is the kind of thing where you're like, I support these MAGA. I want us, the feminism in me wants to be like, yeah, honey, that's what happens when you have sex with a forced birther psycho fascist.
Or are inseminated by, let's just be clear.
Or inseminated by, no P and V. And I'm also reminded of, Andrew Tate, while he was stateside, before he went back to Romania, actually did manage to get a sexual assault in his busy schedule. And according to the woman, he screamed at her during sex that started consensual and was not consensual during it. He screamed at her, let me put a baby inside you. Right. So like, again, sexual assaulters, abusers, rapists, misogynists, the, manosphere. the proto-natalists. It's all very connected. And then the other thing is they're all shitty dads. Like none of them actually want to take care of their kids. None of them want to pay their kids. You got Grimes out here tweeting back at Elon Musk, please, there's an issue of our child's health. Ashley St. Clair says that Elon, took back a bunch of money that she owed him for child support. At least the weirdos in Texas on the Texas ranches would corral their spawn and, take care of them in one place. Obviously illegal and holding people against their will, but there's at least a little bit of a veneer of we want to take care of the children that we spawn.
But yeah, that's not what he's interested in. Apparently, at one point, we don't even need to put this up, but Tiffany Fong, the crypto influencer, received a DM from Elon asking if she was interested in having his child, according to people familiar with the matter. The two had never met in person.
Amazing.
And you bring up
And she said no, and
Yeah.
then he stopped her payments for Twitter, whatever the blue check services.
Oh,
where
he
you
took
get
away
money
her
for
blue
attention.
check?
And then it was like $20,000, I think, a month maybe, that she was getting. And it's like, sorry, you need to have my child in order to do this.
After he had basically started profiling her, she was making $21,000 on Twitter, and then after profiling her, and I think he was posting about her, or retweeting her, he DM'd her. She said no, and then he cut off that money. Isn't that a beautiful, that metaphor is
What a
exactly
father.
what we're
That's
describing.
perfect.
It's perfect, right? He doesn't even need to know her, and he's already retaliating against her reproductive freedom by taking money away. And he doesn't even know the woman.
And the thing with he definitely doesn't want births in Africa as a sort of exile Afrikaner, but here in this country, he also doesn't want poor people to procreate. Anyone who is attacking something like Medicaid, which covers up to 40% of the births, 50% in rural areas, wants a certain kind of people to be having kids. And it is freaks like him and Jeffrey Epstein and all the other billionaires. And they think of it. I mean, I would love to get these guys on a hot mic talking about how they actually see themselves, because I think they see themselves as sort of like gods or Ubermen or something like that. And come on, say it.
He said the educated piece in the article that he wants educated people. That's code for wealthy white people, right? Yeah.
And we're all living, we also need to understand we're living in the backlash of the Me Too movement. We still are living in this backlash. We've empowered the worst people. We've uplifted them to the point that, the richest man in the world can bully a woman on DM into having his kid and then retaliate against her for publishing on a platform. I mean, it goes against everything that ostensibly the right believes in. Free speech, the right to make money, hustle, mindset, using our social platform, like all of that. But again, we're in this Me Too backlash movement because men were asked to have a modicum of accountability for their crimes. And they were like 9 and became Nazis.
And got reelected to the White House, including Donald Trump, who's been found liable of sexual assault against E. Jean Carroll in court. And then seemingly gratuitously appointed somebody who has a police report against him for sexual assault, Pete Hegseth, to be the head of the Department of Defense, who had no experience. And, one part of me wants to say that Trump values that in him because it's a piece of blackmail and he likes people that are controllable. And I think that's part of it. But it's also in conjunction with letting Andrew Tate back into the country. I love how he says, I can't get Kilmar Abrego Garcia out of El Salvador. Yes. What can I do? But I can no problem bringing this, rape salesman back into the country, Andrew Tate. It's obvious what they're trying to show. It was obvious when he was openly fantasizing about Kamala Harris getting beat up by a boxer or, calling her stupid. That is what we're back to at this moment, a very reactionary, violent posture towards women, and the administration engenders it. And I think it's a conscious choice because just even Donald Trump's political career is an example of how far we need to go in feminism. The fact that he can get away with what he can get away with, and he has just a woman we know would never be able to get away with any of what he does in politics. One misstep and Kamala's the stupidest person alive, and Donald Trump can blow microphones and get away with it. That's not an accident. That's not.
To be fair, if I ever run for office, I will be blowing a microphone. It's part of my stand-up.
For equality.
For equality.
Thank you for being so brave.
That too.
All right, speaking of feminism, you want to talk about this massive breakthrough for women all across the world? There was, I don't know if you've heard about this, Francesca.
No.
But there were a few women that went into space for 11 minutes.
Oh, those bitches. Yeah. I'm just kidding. Yes. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
We did, I think we all got a sticker. Every woman got a little glitter sticker. Yay, you can do it. Now go back to being paid 70% of what men make. I have so many thoughts about this Blue Origin flight. It really touches every empty identity politics nerve in my entire body.
Yep. But Katy Perry got back in the news, so that's exciting for her. After that album was such a flop, and then she gets to sing to a captive audience in space. Gayle King got to. There's nothing for me that makes me more uncomfortable than somebody insisting on singing in a very enclosed, tight-knit space for a bunch of other people. And then imagine being in space. You're like, I can't even open the door and get out of here. But my anxiety is just through the roof thinking about that kind of situation.
Oh, yeah. It's like dude with guitar at party kills entire vibe, makes you listen to him sing Wonderwall.
It's just way too intimate. And I can't imagine what it was like for those other women, but I think they'll get over it. So it was Gayle King, Katy Perry, Lawrence Sanchez, the fiance of Jeff Bezos, who was responsible for this kind of thing. It's just so out of touch and bizarre. As women's rights are being stripped away, we're sending some of the wealthiest women in the history of the planet up on a joyride in space as a free advertisement for Jeff Bezos, who at one point was the world's richest man. So we're just trying to play catch up, I guess, with Elon Musk's commercial space endeavors, or Bezos is, but putting some sort of feminist veneer on it as a contrast. Why are we enabling this marketing ploy by Bezos?
And what's so annoying is that, people are speaking out about it, and I'm of two minds, because there were two scientists on there. One was a former NASA scientist who actually is a sexual assault survivor. She left her research work to go advocate on behalf of survivors, testified in front of Congress. I mean, she's an incredible person. And Amanda Nguyen, and she also was up there. But you got the Katy Perry's with her stupid Daisy. I swear to God.
Keep playing it.
I swear to God. And you know what it was called, Emma? You know what the flight was called? They had to name it. It was called the Taking Up Space mission.
Oh my God. They're leading in. They are leading in. They're taking up space.
Taking up space. This is my flight song. Here's what I think. I think it's okay for billionaires to go into space. I'm fine with the space travel thing because that's what they're trying to do. But for the time that they are up in space, everyone on Earth gets to go ape on their estates. We get to loot and grab as much as we can.
Oh, yeah.
10 minutes and 20 seconds. And as soon as they come back down, you have to drop everything. But it's like a sweepstakes. And, because, as they come back to Earth, Katy Perry's like, I just really realized we have to take care of our mother that is Earth. It's like, okay, you're going to give up your seventh home? No? Okay, well then let the people, it'll be like when Sri Lankans, took over the presidential palace and they were swimming in the pool. I want that, but for us down here on Earth.
Yeah, I mean, we need to get something out of this for what they put us through by forcing us to look at these images. Here's a celebrity that we like, Emily Ratajkowski.
Yeah, big fan.
Well, yes. I mean, all right, calm down.
Bernie Sanders. That's the only reason.
She was a Bernie Sanders.
That's the only reason, right? Also, she did speak out about Palestine, right? I mean, she's gorgeous, she's beautiful, she's incredible. Here she goes talking about why this is such BS.
Space mission this morning. That's end time shit. Like, this is beyond parody. Saying that you care about Mother Earth and it's about Mother Earth and you're going up in a spaceship that is built and paid for by a company that's single-handedly destroying the planet. Look at the state of the world and think about how many resources went into putting these women into space. For what? For what was the marketing there? And then to try to make it like, I'm disgusted. Literally, I'm disgusted.
I think she was going to say it tried to make it like a feminist thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Which is the grossest part about it.
that's what bothers me. And I get frustrated by white feminism, by lean-in feminism, that stuff that is, and, you know, white feminism, it's a term that I think can be confusing to some people, but it doesn't necessarily just mean white people. It's probably a better term to say like capitalist feminism or lean-in feminism, where although white feminism also just means it's not intersectional. So there's two separate kind of areas that we could talk about here.
Bourgeois feminism.
But bourgeois, for this particular case, like the thing that's just triggering about it is that it gestures towards equality, but it doesn't engender those outcomes, and it's
for the richest man in the world.
It still places
It's big Democratic Party vibes.
Right, like the onus on individuals to overcome systemic and structural problems, and it's just really geared towards women in corporate America, as opposed to the people who bear the brunt for the most of the brunt of our like patriarchal society, which are women of color and poorer people and people in the global South. And
they make up the majority of the working class.
Yes. And so it obscures what feminism really is, and how feminism, just like anti-racist work and just like, you know, working on behalf of trying to change our societal structure to challenge capitalism, these are all things that go hand in hand. And this brand of feminism hurts what feminism really means.
Yeah, and Ratajkowski said it perfectly, which is it's so late stage. And specifically not only because women are losing their rights here on Earth, but also that it is a private flight and NASA is simultaneously being gutted right now.
Yeah.
And there's an actual DEI officer at NASA, because of course there is, because only, I think it's like 12% of people who've gone into space are women. So they have someone who's like, you know, trying to recruit, you know, astronauts and scientists and engineers who are women, who are people of color from marginalized communities. And she was just summarily let go. And people on Twitter are like, yay, didn't see a lot of mainstream news reporting about her being let go. But of course, we're going to highlight Katy Perry, you know, singing in space. So it is we're living in a satire. And so it's very on brand for all of that. I just hate that they splice in a little bit of like, oh, this is an actual NASA scientist, to make us look like dipshits if we criticize it.
Right.
I mean, let's just play a little bit of this, because I think it actually serves cross purposes to what they say by commodifying empowerment like this. Here's Gayle King defending it a little bit.
We're actually doing experiments, but every time one of those goes up, you get some information that can be used for something else. So
a minor problem here is when that was NASA, that was public information, the public advancement. Now it belongs in Jeff Bezos' pocket for him to do with what he wants. That's just a minor point. Actually, it's kind of a fundamental point. Exactly.
Yeah.
Contracts that we give these guys.
I wish people would do more due diligence. And then my question is, have y'all been to space? Have you been to space?
Ooh.
Go to space or go to Blue Origin and see what they do.
Go
and
to
how
space?
They do. And then
You
come
go
back
to
and say,
space.
This
is like Dave's, what's the guy Douglas Murray saying? Dave Smith, have you been to Gaza? Well, don't criticize Israel.
No, it's like, have you ever been to the Fiji private island? Well, then you can't speak about it.
Exactly.
Just go to space, bitch.
Don't knock low Earth orbit until you've tried it.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of tight. So
Have you
I don't know
ever
why
been
you're...
on? Yeah. Have you ever been on the poop deck of a yacht? Well, you can't criticize yachts if you haven't.
Absolutely. Oh, that's just amazing. Don't make me hate Gayle King, dude.
Sorry, we got a little bit more.
I know. I enjoyed the whole, from afar, the wholesome celebrity friendship of her and, well, I mean, maybe
her interview with
Hold
R.
yourself.
Kelly. I mean,
was that the one who was like, I'm fighting for my life?
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. I'm trying to like women. Stop making me not.
is a terrible thing. Is it expensive? Yes. But one of the things they're trying to do, if you get enough people who are interested, it doesn't have to be that expensive.
No!
You get a
Number
punch
one.
card.
Number two, I don't like that people are calling it a ride. A ride, you know, you never see a male astronaut who's going up in space and they said, oh, he took a ride. We actually duplicated the route that Alan Shepard did. That's why it's called, this particular capsule is called the New Shepard. We duplicated that route. No one said he took that ride.
Yeah.
It's always referred to as a flight or a journey. So I feel that that's a little disrespectful to what the mission was and what the work that Blue Origin does. Number three, I've had so many girls and women and some guys who are saying, boy, I saw what you did. I'm thinking maybe I should reconsider. Maybe I could do this too.
Going to space in a public photo op. I mean, the problem here is this. She's saying like acting like this is some sort of groundbreaking thing that can inspire people. This is the list of women astronauts. There is too many to. I mean, like.
Yeah.
Well, it actually does count them on the side here, so we can just go to the bottom of the list here. There has been
Over 100.
110.
Oh my God, Lauren Sanchez gets listed?
Well, now,
my
Now
God.
they're
Katy
included.
Perry,
included.
that is
So-
evil. Stolen valor.
Wait, can you go down? I want to click on Lauren Sanchez and see if that's like one of the top descriptors on her Wikipedia, and I'm going to scream if that's the case. Licensed pilot.
She is licensed founder of. She became engaged to Amazon and Blue Origin founder Jeff Bezos.
Oh my God.
So
Black
that's nice.
Ops Aviation.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it.
Yeesh.
Don't knock marrying Jeff Bezos getting sent into space until you try it.
Yeah.
I would just look up people. There's a clip of when Bezos took William Shatner up into space, like in 2021, and Shatner his response to it is, "I'm exceedingly depressed, Jeff. Can I tell you about this?" And Jeff is half listening and then
played
goes
that.
to get a bottle of champagne and shakes it
starts
up.
spraying it in his face, and Shatner's on the verge of tears about like
How small the world is.
how
and-
small the world. Like I'm having you gotta find it. I'll
Wait,
read some
okay.
IMs while you
I've
find
only
it.
seen this. I would just say I've only heard about that instance because it is incredible. Most people, you're supposed to feel a certain way, but Shatner was like, I'm really depressed because I do feel like, it sounded like we're squandering Earth. We have
Right.
something beautiful. And I didn't realize he was then greeted with a bottle of champagne in his.
We have it. We have it.
This is the most sensitive billionaire, Jeff Bezos.
To work on it because not only is it different than what you thought, it becomes so quickly. You know what the impression I had that I never expected to have is you're shooting up.
Oh my God.
And this new sky.
Come here.
He's crying.
I want to hear this.
This is he's so focused on getting in champagne. Oh,
Sorry, we gotta go back.
Here, you gotta show their face. We gotta go up a little bit higher so you can see Shatner's face. There we go. Perfect.
Oh my God.
Give me this new sky.
Come here.
and the blue sky.
I want to hear this. Here.
Do you?
You want a little of this? Hey.
Oh my God.
Oliver is significant other there.
I
Anyway,
would've
as you were
punched
saying,
him. Oh. That is brilliant.
Shatner's
That
like,
is-
oh, the meaning of life.
anyway,
We're so
wipe champagne out of his eyes.
I love this is like, when you're at a party and you're just kind of focused on the bar and you're like, yeah, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, can you grab me? Totally. Yeah. All right, thanks. Like
Like the
I've
bartender
been-
has not come back and like, well, hey, oh, damn, he's not paying
yeah,
attention.
yeah. Anyway, yeah. Oh,
I was trying to tell you I'm getting divorced.
Exactly. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. And like Shatner, there's also, I just want to say, like, first of all, don't get me started on how much I don't love space in general. Mostly because I'm just more concerned with Earth. And half of space exploration is about how to recreate Earth on other planets and or in space. And you're like, buddy, hey, it's right down here.
Yeah.
But, there's also something like, I think it's nice that Shatner goes. He's been interested in space, obviously, for so long, so many
Right.
decades. I don't want to play, now I'm playing like, well, it's okay for this man to go up. In effect, each one of these rides is very narcissistic. It's very personal. It's very about you get to go up because you had this dream or you were obsessed with space or you had a bunch of little spaceships when you were a kid. But ultimately, like at what cost to the planet, to, carbon emissions, to the funding that goes in there. Again, it's like, it's cool. I support people who like space, but ultimately they're not doing anything other than like, again, getting that feeling, getting a high, even if it's as sentimental as what Shatner's about to say, or if it's as stupid as what Katy Perry felt.
Right. That's exactly right. Let's read some IMs and then we'll do a little bit more. Do you have like a half hour more with us, Francesca? I don't
hell
let
yeah.
you go just
Let's
yet.
go.
Okay. All right. Elbows up. That Shatner clip is literally I think you should leave sketch. Desert Lefty, this is the Paris Hilton stop being poor shirt, but not a hoax. Legalized Comity says, I believe William Shatner is also in recovery, so it's a double dick move. Recovery from alcoholism, that is.
No.
Oh my God.
Oh God.
CPG Captain's Log, this Bezos guy is a real chode.
I think it might be just any billionaire.
Yeah.
What billionaire has like come out of more exposure looking better?
I mean, it's because they're sociopaths.
Yeah.
You cannot accumulate that level of wealth unless you get it in like a divorce settlement or something. Like, I wouldn't say.
Like a lot of these guys' ex-wives.
Right, like Melinda Gates. I don't know if I'd say she's a sociopath. I mean, but
give her like 10 years to probably develop into one.
Exactly.
Affluenza.
Send Soros to space. I'm pro that. Soros can do whatever he wants so long as he keeps funding the bitchuation room. Ding.
Hey, we like to keep that on the down low.
Oh,
you said too much. Desert Lefty says, dang it, Matt, I was about to say bourgeois feminism. It's Yas Queen, but my queen. You mean labor aristocracy. Apple Cideritis, I've got no problem with billionaires going to space. It's them returning to Earth I have a problem with.
Exactly.
I love Tesla. I love Tesla. I am curious why Katy Perry, who cares about her? It seems like a real miss. It's probably the only singer that would agree to it. I mean, Katy Perry has had like, as somebody who follows pop music a little bit, has really, really struggled over the past 10 years where her contemporaries like Lady Gaga and Beyonce are doing very well. Didn't
she work with some really problematic producer and make a thirst trap style video that just completely flopped last year?
Yeah, she continued to work with the guy that Kesha accused of assaulting her. I mean, she's also like, her music was never
good.
Look, never good. I mean, look, I hate on Taylor Swift a lot, but Taylor writes her own songs and stuff. I don't think it's challenging music, but I do think that hers is like even more just like baseline level cotton candy. That was her aesthetic too. Anyway. Northwest Car Hater, Francesca, I've been loving America Unhinged. I can only rarely join for the live stream, but I just want to shout you and Waj out and encourage Zateo to keep you on air as long as both of you want to stick to it.
Thank you. Yeah, if everyone can, go support Zateo.com. They have their 1 year birthday. And yes, it's been really fun. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We've had great guests. Like, our guests have been awesome. Pittsburgh Mayor Ed Gainey was on yesterday. He's running for re-election. It's just been, our guests are the best, top shelf. Sam was on. That was like kind of a whatever episode.
Yeah.
Again,
you gotta save some for the other episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
Ramona Frankenstein, as a trans woman, nothing brings me more joy than the notion that I eliminated a white man from this world. Suck it, Elon. I'm also infertile now because of HRT. Go cry about it, dumbass.
I mean, that's the real thing that the family values thing, where, I mean, Trump is his own case, but Elon Musk calling one of his sort of vibrant children dead to him because they're trans. You're despicable. You've failed, and you are not a model. You're a tragic, a tragic example.
Yep.
There's also the couple, the couple. I think this is Simone and Malcolm Collins, who get written up all the time. They're these proto-natalists, and I think it was either the Washington Post or the Atlantic or one of these very long little fluff pieces about these people. She practically wears bonnets. Halfway through the article, she's at dinner with them, and he open hand slaps his 3-year-old across the face at dinner. And you're like, excuse, what? So it's not just, again, they are bad parents. They are abusive. They don't care. They care about numbers, but the children are, their rights, their autonomy, their happiness, totally secondary.
Yeah.
It's very disturbing.
They are numbers, and it's like all those kids, if they don't go on to procreate and pass his genes down, they're less valuable to him than he thought they would be.
And that's why he has daughters, including his trans daughter, but a majority of the kids that he has sired are boys because he's doing this natural gender selection thing.
Oh, was that updated? I thought his trans daughter was his only daughter.
I think we mistakenly maybe both said that one time, but I think he might have one or two others, but one of them is a twin, like it could have been from IVF.
One of them's a twin, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a strong, the trend is still pretty pronounced.
Yes. Doopy time. Can I just say you guys are not a light in the darkness or a lighthouse in the sea of bad news. You're a siren luring us sailors to a watery demise with a siren song of so-called fun half. Anyway, love the show. Keep up the good work. We did have fun today. We did. I can't not have fun with Francesca.
That's sexist, siren.
Yeah.
Sexist.
Yeah. What do you have against women, huh?
This is what majority
It's
report is.
mermaid to you.
An irresistible internet lure. Traps abound.
That's us. That's us. Honestly, if the Weinsteins weren't so narcissistic and needing to censor themselves in every situation.
You mean the main thing they are?
Yeah. If they weren't that thing, they would be so happy with this administration because their war on peer review has won. I mean, there's a bunch of cranks all over the government who don't believe in the concept of modern science and peer review. This is their big thing. They got it. They got it.
They do have the thing where they need to always be in opposition. So it's actually a problem when they get what they want, because what they want is farcical and a make-believe fantasy, which is like all the people that said, oh yeah, we want mass deportations, but to save the working class. It's like you were never, of only criminals. It's like that is not a thing that can actually happen.
There are some people, commentators, Jimmy Dore's one of them, and others, who are only comfortable being in opposition to things and don't know how to build anything, for example.
It's easier.
It's easier. It's easier to be constantly saying, I hate this crap, as opposed to
it's like being in
solution.
It's like being in a casino and betting that the people in the casino are going to lose.
Yep.
Because yeah, it is stacked against them.
But it's also lazy because you always have an angle, right? And your angle is just, I'm in opposition, I have no vision, just I know that I would do everything different. How? I don't know. I'm not going to say that. And it also really helps us leftists demobilize because a lot of us are cynical. We do have a more macro view. We do keep receipts. It is easy to get cynical. And so I think it's even more insidious than just having a lane or just having clickbait. It is truly demobilizing to movements when we need them more than ever. When you can just say, everyone's messed up, not me. AOC and Bernie. Look, I have massive critiques of some of what they do. But like, is the Fight Oligarchy tour a net good? Is it massive? Is it incredible? $10 million funding haul for AOC? Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, mobilizing people is just one of the things we look to for politicians, and they're really the people doing it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right. Let's get back to talking a little bit about the news. We got to do this Trump interview, I think. Where did when he said the worst of I'm trying to find this. Russ, what's the Trump clip where he from the Fox? Oh wait, maybe I'm oh wait, no, where it is. It's number 8. Okay. So Donald Trump did an interview with the Fox Spanish language channel, and this is him talking about how the administration is going to be, quote, very soothing with farmers. Let's hear what he has to say.
One of the things I am doing, though, is I'm also making it easier on the farmers and the hotels and everything, because you have a lot of farmers that they're not going to be able to, do their crops and pick up the corn and do all of the things that they do so incredibly well. So we're making it so that if a farmer can give recommendations to people, we're going to be very soothing in terms of perhaps letting that farmer have, they're sort of responsible.
Yeah.
And we're going to have the farmer take responsibility. But, ultimately at some point, we want the people to go out, come back as legal. We're going to send, as you probably know, we're doing a self-deportation. And we're going to make it comfortable for people, and we're going to work with those people to come back into our country legally.
Está
The good
funcionando,
ones.
está
One of the things I am doing.
Why not just let
This, you could just let them stay. That's a good question. But this is building on reporting from last week that said he's going to look into some carve-outs for farm workers and for hotel workers. And I find this to be a really instructive way for us to analyze immigration policy right now. Because something like 40% of farm workers in this country are immigrants. It's a very, very significant part of that workforce. Trump also hired undocumented laborers back in the day to do work on his hotels.
and golf courses.
And hotels rely on a lot of this labor as well. So it's a problem for them. He's getting calls from these people saying, we need these folks. And how often do they need them? In terms of how are they using these workers? They need them because they can't pay Americans the wages legally that they often pay undocumented people. Yeah. And Americans have some rights under the law. You might need to give them certain worker protections that might cost you some money. You may need to give them health care in some states. You may need to give them benefits. I mean, that's part of the issue here. And this whole industry goes, no, we rely on exploitated labor to keep us going. So you need to give us a carve out. But for everybody else, it seems like Donald Trump cares about just making a big fascist show of things.
Yeah, I mean it's wild. His language is so unspecific and terrifying. I'm always
corn. What is he talking?
Yeah, pick
about?
up. Well, the groceries are just things you put, different things in a bag. Have you heard of this word, groceries?
It's so old-fashioned.
So old-fashioned, old-timey, really.
I think I read that in a Shakespeare play once.
Yeah, actually,
It's actually a historically
pick
new
up
word.
corn or not. It's what?
Historically speaking, it's probably a modern word, not an old word.
Oh, right. Yeah. This old-fashioned thing, supermarkets. Yeah, I mean, what's crazy also is I don't think he's talking about workers. I think he's talking about farm owners and people who employ these workers. So we're going to have we're going to be very soothing, whatever the hell that means. He doesn't know. They don't have a plan. But we know your workforce is being decimated. You can't replace those workers. Look, I went to an egg farm in Arizona, and I was like, I spoke with a farmer. I was like, how many people are undocumented? Are you worried about these new laws? And he was like, yeah, half of my workers are undocumented. And when ICE comes around, people don't show up. And I've tried to get teenagers to do this job. I've tried to get Americans to do this job. It's a hard job, and I can't get them to stay for more than a couple weeks. Now, of course, we can talk about, should he be paying more? What are the ways? All of it has to do with worker power, labor power, and all of this. And also breaking up monopolies, quite frankly, in pork processing centers and meat processing centers. It's all, in more and more massive conglomerates. They lobby the government, on and on and on. They keep the profits for themselves. But there are not people to do this replacing. So the idea that you're going to soothe it, how?
Child labor, and as Matt said, off-mic robots, right?
Yeah. They get child labor to fix the robots.
Robots aren't even there. They're not even there yet.
I know.
Nutlick is the little small little, screws. It's what robots have you seen? We've seen a robot lift an Amazon box and then move it down a conveyor belt. Cool.
What do you think this is? This isn't China. We're not technologically advanced. Are you joking about this? I mean, right. But they're passing child labor, permissive child labor laws in a lot of red states. I keep coming back to the Arkansas child labor law that Sarah Huckabee Sanders signed into law, which is just removing paperwork requirements for child labor because they want to use undocumented child labor, and they don't want a paper trail of how much they're working them and how little they're paying them. And then we also, Dave from Upstate writes in, says, prison labor. That's the other piece of this. Private prisons are probably salivating right now when they look at what the Trump administration is doing. And I don't know if we know fully who is funding CCOT, that gulag in El Salvador, but
I think it's the Salvadoran government.
You think so?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it is. I think it's costing them a lot of money, 3% of their budget, and they need our money to
subsidize
keep it afloat. Yeah,
it was like $115 million to construct, is what I read. It got opened in 2023. So I guess it is being funded by them. But just something to look out for, like how the prison industrial complex is going to try to benefit from this fascist administration and the disappearances of people.
There might be like a sweet spot between the prison labor and what happens now, which is Trump says there he's going to make the farmers responsible somehow for the situation of these people who are currently undocumented. To me, it kind of sounds like he's saying the farmers are going to have to sort of legally be responsible for the whatever happens to these people.
What does that mean? Like if they're responsible for them being here so they can get arrested, or what?
Yeah, I think he's saying they need to give them up. Like I interpreted again, it's really not specific. I interpreted it as basically you're harboring. I mean, we know the language is terrorist at this point. There is no difference between undocumented people and terrorists in the minds of the Trump administration. I think it's like you have to give them up. We're going to be raiding your workplaces as we've always done. And but we'll make good on something by giving you, I don't know, $50 or whatever it is. As we'll give you all these 8-year-olds. You
used to make money by growing crops, and now you can make money by turning people into ICE deportation services.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what if it's like they're responsible because they're locking them inside, they're not letting them leave, they're controlling like their what they eat, whether they organize or don't organize, like
so they slowly turn the field into a prison.
Right, that's what I mean. It's like maybe it's somewhere between
indentured servitude.
Yeah, somewhere between prison labor and if you talk to like immigration rights people, sometimes they'll say these guest worker programs are sort of along those lines.
Already indentured servitude.
Yeah, that's why we don't like those programs. And just put this up also. There's a conversation about manufacturing that Eric Blanc had this good piece here. Unions, not just factories, will make the working class or bring back the working class, basically. But this shows the hourly pay of production and non-supervisory workers. The orange line here is manufacturing workers, and the blue line is non-manufacturing workers. And manufacturing does not pay as well as non-manufacturing as opposed to when it used to, like 30, 40 years ago, when it was more of a unionized workforce. So we can't just fetishize like a cargo cult, the idea of putting things together in a factory. The reason that putting things together in a factory was good for people and why people have nostalgia for it was because of the type of life that it provided people. That's the real thing. People want their work to be reflected into an ability to live a good life.
No, it was manliness. It was manly. It was definitely manliness.
The whistle and the punch card.
It was when the women didn't have
Mickey
that credit card.
cartoons.
Yeah, right. No, they loved the black lung, and now the wokeness has ruined the situation down in
they just love crouching over. I mean, that's what it made me think of when that Alma Draftos worker was like crouching over, and they're hurting their backs, trying to stay under people. It's like, making people crawl through caves, similar sort of thing.
But think about why, like, Trump keeps using these images, and I think this White House been like tweeting out almost AI-looking images of coal workers. There are more people currently employed by Broadway than coal. Saw that stat the other day, and so when you put it that way, I feel like it's just like the over focus on that industry is just so insane. But it's because they don't want to talk about what Matt's talking about there, how it was labor protections that made these jobs something that upheld communities. They want to make it about the aesthetic, and they only want a worker to look like an ideal, as opposed to being the reality of like the working class in many ways is multiracial. They live in urban areas. They live in rural areas. They live in suburban areas too. And when you make that clear to people, it increases the likelihood of solidarity.
Yeah. Well, and also, I don't know if you saw, there was like a poll out that was like, do you think factory jobs will make America better? And it's like majority are like, yes. Then do you think that you would do better in a factory? And they're like, oh, no, not me. Not me. It was like, no, most people were like, not me in a factory. And I think it's deeper, because I think it is also about punishing anyone who wants to be upwardly mobile. It is punishing aspirational, again, like if you're want to be a doctor or an engineer or an intellectual, an academic, like it is punishing all of that. And it is a broader anti-intellectual movement that the right has honestly been about for decades now, but Trump really weaponized and is weaponizing anti-intellectualism in the guise of, anti-Israel speak.
Right. All right, one more clip and then we'll let you go, Francesca. What's good here? Did you want to take talk about the gulags, or you want to talk about AOC? What's up? What do you think?
I love it all.
You love it all? All right. Oh, let's do Gutfeld. What number is that? 11. Here is Greg Gutfeld on Fox News yesterday talking about how Trump is defying the Supreme Court, saying that the administration needs to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return from the El Salvador gulag where they mistakenly sent him. At least they say mistakenly in court documents when there's actually something on the line. But then when Stephen Miller's little weaselly face goes on TV, he'll say the exact opposite, because they're trying to broadly paint immigrants, and usually it's immigrants from Latino countries or from South America, Latin America, as terrorists and criminals broadly. Like the End Wokeness account is for some reason tying, I saw, Kilmar Abrego Garcia to another instance of rape of a white woman, like they're doing with Laken Riley, just because that guy was from El Salvador who committed the crime, which is textbook fascist propaganda, both in the generalization of an entire ethnic group as like a rapist or a criminal, but also in the invocation of white female victimhood here. Because let's be clear, white female victims, using them and highlighting those cases in those instances, even when they're horrific, and as any rape or murder is, but making it a part of like overall fascist propaganda is a way to dehumanize Salvadoran men and just Latina men in general, but also appeal to like these racist white male savior fantasies. And this was done to great effect for racists in the Jim Crow South, and is currently being done by Israel.
Yeah. I was just going to say, you might as well be wearing a hood and on a horse going through, South Carolina or something. Right.
And this is the Stephen Miller playbook. Israel's doing this with Palestinian men right now, painting them as rapists. It's a way to dehumanize them and make a whole racial group into a monolith, which it makes it easier to justify abusive treatment. And so here is Greg Gutfeld, who, like, for some reason, like, is getting great ratings on his show at night for Fox News, and like they're rewarding him with a new show. He's a big voice there talking about this case. Well, all right.
Why are they talking about this disappear fear? It's because the bat signal went up. Last week it was chaos. Now it's disappear fear. You put it on the mountain of imaginary concerns, along with paper straws, the climate apocalypse, Russian collusion, white supremacy, Musk is a Nazi. This is what I mean when you can feel the narrative, you can feel it. You go like, oh, now I understand this. This whole thing, this guy is nothing more than a tool that is being used to subvert the needs and concerns of the American public. This is why they're latching onto it. You mentioned how the deportation, in a way, has the same issues as the invasion. It's a mirror. Biden opened the border, millions came in, and surely murderers and rapists were part of that. Now we're deporting hundreds of thousands, and surely one or two might not be criminal. However, compare the error.
Or 90%.
Yep, it's close. It's 75 to 90%.
These errors, Americans don't die. At worst, a guy gets sent to a country he doesn't want to go to. You know what? I can live with that.
into a prison camp, not just out into
You know,
the wild.
look, I'm sorry, Jessica. I understand your concern, but I refuse to care about one person who's
So
an illegal
triggered.
alien when the mental shelf space that I have is now reserved for victims of crime, which I've been talking about for years. This manufactured narrative, family man, father of 3, coming from the media, who with the same intensity talked about having children was bad for the climate, are now telling us that when you have children, you are now a pillar of the community.
Okay,
if
now
that
he's
guy was a
flailing.
white
Now he's
American
flailing.
citizen, they would just call him a MAGA extremist. But he's an illegal alien and he has kids, and now he's the spirit of the community. He's a good guy.
Yeah, but in addition to that, there are 2 courts
I mean, all right,
that rule-
whatever. Like,
Yeah, this is.
nonsensical.
Fighting words, honestly.
Yeah.
He's really flailing there. I mean, it's worse than Gutfeld because it's, Gutfeld, I am assuming, gets very drunk before his shows and because you have to be. And he's so nihilistic, this guy. Like, I've watched him for a while and you're just like, he's just the, portrait of nihilism. But when it comes to Trump and Caroline Leavitt, press secretary, they're saying the same thing. Caroline Leavitt said yesterday, stop acting like he was father of the year, which effectively is, look, so he's not a gang member, whatever, or he is, or he's not. But stop pretending like he was a good dad. Like, that's how much they've retreated on this. And so you're like, oh, okay, so not being a good dad in your eyes is grounds to send you to a labor camp in El Salvador. And by the way, the people who are in that camp, not all of them are also guilty, right? A lot of them, in fact, are victims of crime themselves. So when Gutfeld says, I only care about the victims of crime, just be clear what Emma said. You care about white victims of crime. You have a lot of mental space for Lake and Riley when she's a victim of crime, or any white woman, any white person who is victim of crime, but immigrants themselves. And we saw this writing on the wall. And so it gives me no pleasure to say that we all knew this was going to happen, that we all knew there's no distinction between criminals, actual criminals, and undocumented people, that Stephen Miller's laughing in our face because anyone who believed that line is a sucker and an idiot, because they are, because the entire premise, remember, Obama, Biden, and even Trump 1.0 actually tried to go after criminals who don't have papers in this country. ICE in 2017 said, look, we can't really do our job because communities are afraid of us, and our job is to go after actual criminals, right? And so, but the community is scared writ large, so can you dissolve ICE? At one point, ICE wanted to abolish ICE. This is true. And Biden, for all the terrible things he did on immigration, was more focused on actual criminals. But it's the same premise with, like, let's say the IRS. When they are defunded or they don't care, they go after low-level people making not very much money, and they audit those folks. Same with ICE. When there's not a focus on criminals, they're just focusing on any undocumented people, and they don't care because that is the project. Because by virtue of the fact that these folks aren't citizens, they have legal status, but they're not citizens, it's enough. It's enough to say you should be deported, you should be sent to a prison camp. I don't understand people who miss the racism and who at all took what Trump said on the campaign trail at face value, or who think that there is any distinction in their minds between criminals and innocent people.
Yeah. I mean, like, obviously you were completely correct about that whole gulag thing.
I didn't even say gulag. I said detention facility.
Right.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, for people that don't know, yeah, like you were the fact that TYT embraced that whole notion that he's just going after the criminals, which is what the Obama administration, what the Biden administration did.
Already did,
and you're creating space for this kind of fascist propaganda. And I just, sorry, Matt, just really quickly, like when the right invokes rape, but they have rapists at the top levels of the Trump administration, they don't care about rape and protecting women from rape. They only care, or the individual crime of rape. They only care about using rape as a broader tool or narrative to justify collective punishment or internment of racial groups.
And And I just want to say, like, it's important that we all understand that the sort of policy prescription that people sold about these mass deportations, people like Sagar and Jetty or whatever, that we can mass deport our way to save the working class, was transparently a lie meant to protect the financial and wealthy elites in this country. And JD Vance is continuing in that lie. And I was glad to see Zaid Jalani sort of go after him. So this is, I think, very revealing. J.D. Vance writes, consider that Joe Biden allowed approximately 20 million illegal aliens into our country. I'll stop there. That's a lie. That is a Nazi number. Nobody believes that 20 million number. It's probably about doubled. And so it continues. This placed extraordinary burdens on our country. Our schools, hospital, housing, and other essential services were overwhelmed. We are the richest country on earth. We can handle all of this stuff. But Congress is sitting on its ass, and people like the Republicans in Texas would rather human traffic these people around for political purposes than have our government, which should be responding to this, because guess what? It's responsible for displacing a lot of these people in the fucking first place. But it should be funding these sorts of things, so this isn't a burden on our country. But we can't actually do that because the people that paid for J.D. Vance to change his name 3 times and rise to the level of vice president don't want you to. They want you to blame the other person. And it's sick to me that we have to share a profession with people that want to continue this lie. Like, oh no, I didn't want Mahmoud Khalil to be deported. I just wanted all the people that are taking your jobs. That was a lie. The people that are taking your jobs are the capitalists that are sending it across overseas. And this whole thing, this entire thing was a farce. And we should not be entertaining it anymore as if, oh yeah, Sagar or whoever the hell had an actual good idea. No, they were spreading a Nazi lie for people like Elon Musk.
And I mean, Anna Kasparian gave flowers to J.D. Vance for that particular line there. She claimed that she was defending immigrants from the Venezuelan gangs of Aurora, Colorado, who were not taking over apartment buildings, but she still swears they were. Like, this was the same line. This was what they were trying to continually stoke. And I don't know why. They did it. But it was playing into this grand narrative that helped dehumanize Haitians, Venezuelans, and are now getting people locked into these prison camps. I mean, so it's so pathetic. It's so upsetting that they played into it. And now they're like, I didn't think they'd take it this far. And so don't let folks forget where they stood, in the run up to this Trump 2.0.
I mean, you just need to go look at Nazi Germany if you want an example of fascism and the usage of citizenship and the revocation of that to further policies that ended in the extermination of millions of Jews. Like the Nuremberg laws also revoked citizenship for Jews before, like, the Nazis engaged in wholesale extermination of them. This is out of the fascist playbook. Not understanding these signs means you fundamentally don't understand history or politics.
Stop comparing them to Nazis.
Yeah, and
Emma.
Right, I should
make
stop
them
doing
more
that.
Nazis. No, and then someone pointed out the other day, look, there's a reason Auschwitz was in Poland. Right? There was a reason Auschwitz was not in Germany. There's a reason that Trump wants to build 5 more SICOTs in El Salvador. They don't want to do it on Guantanamo because that's, a U.S. base. There's more responsibility and accountability. They had to give, the people who were detained in Guantanamo habeas corpus for their alleged crimes, for allegedly being terrorists, even though they were not. So they're like, no, we're going to learn the Bush lesson. We're going to send them to El Salvador. And look, I mean, the craziest part about all of this, if you really cared about crime, last thing I'm going to say, if you really cared about crime and you actually think that the migrant crime narrative, it's kind of real, by locking up innocent people, you are guaranteeing and using their status, using their immigration dates, using their, their DACA status, using their IRS numbers that they cannot vote with, using that against them. You are criminalizing immigrants who are doing it the right way, ensuring people don't register with immigration officials, ensuring they live in the shadows, they work in the shadows. What happens then? There's more illicit activity. People don't actually seek jobs because they're too afraid to be swept up and deported. And it only actually creates more precarity for those communities. And yes, more crime if you happen to care about that.
Yeah, and we know that crime did spike as a result of the pandemic and has been on a precipitous decline in 2023 and in 2024. But during that time period, there were landlord organizations and major corporations like Target that used the excuse of crime to justify their poor business practices, whether it be in Aurora where they didn't maintain the apartments and there were infestations, and that's how they offloaded the complaints that the tenants had was to blame gangs. And then in the instances of Target, and other big corporations like that, they blame their lack of sales or their failure to launch certain stores in areas where there wasn't as much foot traffic on shoplifting. And then they admitted it 6 months later. But you had media organizations, including TYT, who ran with those press releases from corporations as I remember they used to talk about going after corporate media. It's insane. It's ridiculous. And also, you got to wonder, these tech oligarchs are very invested in drumming up these false notions of crime and putting it to the top of people's feeds. And that was happening throughout the pandemic. And now these tech oligarchs are at the top of the Trump administration. They laid the groundwork for their fascist policies by overplaying instances of crime and denying the decrease after the once-in-a-lifetime global pandemic had subsided in order to continue to manufacture consent for these fascist policies. And if you have any notion of history, you would have been able to identify that. You would have been able to identify that when Republicans talk about going after criminals, that's not what they mean, because there are not enough criminals in this country and you would have to multiply them by many times over to meet the quotas that they are talking about. The case of Mahmoud Khalil is also deeply disturbing in when we're looking at how they're using both national security and immigration policies, yes, to create a fascist state, is because Mahmoud Khalil had a green card. And what they're trying to do is create facts on the ground, which is, by the way, a phrase initially originated by Israel.
Settlers.
They're trying to create facts on the ground to use national security as a justification to revoke a previously very protected immigration status green card. So they're not just going after illegal people. They're going after people who have not illegal people, I don't want to use that, but people who came here without proper documentation. They're going after Mahmoud Khalil specifically because they want to expand the pool of people that they can target for deportations, even folks that had previously that had such a protected status in immigration that it's right below citizenship. That's why they're using him. And as you say, they're going after the lowest hanging fruit. They're using pro-Palestine activism because they think they can do that on national security grounds.
And I just want to... so go ahead, Francesca.
Oh, just quickly, it really also shows that the Democrats have dropped the ball for decades on immigration reform, truly, because the fact that things like DACA, things, like immigration courts and green cards, all of this, that the same apparatus that was supposed to protect immigrants from deportation is being weaponized against them, shows you that Democrats have been deeply insincere about protecting immigrants in this country and expanding their rights, about creating not just a path. I mean, I'm done with pathway to citizenship. I am for amnesty. You know what? I am for amnesty. Yes, I said it. You know what I'm saying? You live here a certain time in this country.
You're on the max left. Shut the hell up.
If a capitalist exploits your labor, welcome.
Yeah, right.
What'd you say?
I said if an American capitalist exploits your labor, welcome to the team.
100%.
Right.
There's just one other thing I want to get back to this JD Vance thing, because he's taken this posture of exasperation, and this is his response as you're not addressing the issue. Biden overwhelmed the system with illegal immigration. Is your proposed solution to give a jury trial to all 20 million illegal aliens? Again, that is a fake number.
It's 11 million.
Yeah, and I'll just go down here. You're well aware that immigration courts aren't typically jury hearings, but let's get back to this. And of course, our very robust jury trial system produces area, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not okay with deporting innocent people, he says. And any more than I'm okay with sentencing innocent people. What I am okay with is the reality that the human system will produce errors. Further, I accept the trade-off. So he's talking about like, oh, we don't have the court resources, as ICE is kidnapping people as they go to scheduled court dates. Like, it's a joke that he's invoking all this stuff. And the way that these guys act, like this supposed invasion, like as if Trump didn't run on immigration stuff in 2016 prior to all this stuff, but that this supposed immigration, and Sagar does this too. I'm so mad about it. I'm so mad, acting like it's the great financial crisis, because they need to substitute a fake crime against society with a fake crime for a real one, which is the financial crisis. We are all in, and Stephen Bannon even does this too, saying this is all after the financial crisis, and then he says, but it's because Bernie went open borders or some dumb shit. This is a Nazi ploy that we need to stop now.
Yep, that's exactly right. And also, he's conflate. H-Dub says 11 million is the number of undocumented people, not the number that came during Biden's term. But I mean, that's, I thought, what he was referring to, although it's not necessarily clear, because also the people that use the CBP one app came here legally. The people under temporary protected status came here legally. But that's why they're going after a green card, because that's an even more protected status, right? Yep. They're trying to they're going to try to come after millions of people if they're allowed to. That's the point of this. But
and I'm sick, honestly. Speaking of the Steve Bannon stuff, it really grosses me out that when we talk about the MAGA infighting, there are some people who want to give flowers to like the Steve Bannon, Laura Loomers, as if they are like anti-establishment or anti, 1%. Nah, Steve Bannon is just butthurt that like he's not in the Oval Office right now. He's jealous of Elon Musk, and he's like, no, we gotta do populism the racist way, the real way. No H-1B visas. Like, it's just a more committed xenophobia, right? Like, and of course he's got to find his angle. So like, we can talk about the fissures in MAGA. It's interesting. But we can do that without siding with one of them.
Yes, because honestly, what Stephen Miller's doing right now with these mass deportations, is Steve Bannon like really against that? I don't think so. I think this is exactly what he wanted.
We'll also say like Steve Bannon doesn't have the same position on H-1Bs that Bernie Sanders has had for a decade plus now. And yeah, I mean, the problem is when that sort of stuff is suppressed, then it is just Steve Bannon, making the case that, because like we said, my position on H-1B workers is that they should not be in this suspended animation area where they can be controlled by capitalists. If they are so important to our country, which I buy that many of them are, they should have full rights as U.S. citizens to go work somewhere else if they want to.
Yeah, and there are so many millions of immigrants who pay, undocumented immigrants who pay taxes, who pay to subsidize our Social Security and Medicare, right? And they will never receive the benefits from it. And so like they're the opposite of leeches. They are contributing to our society and getting nothing like in return for it.
The leeches are paying. The leeches are coming from inside the
the house.
Yeah.
They pay more than the 55 corporations, undocumented immigrants. That was a recent study.
Yeah. And the number 11 million is around undocumented people, but for the Biden administration, though, the update in the registry data okay, sorry. I thought this was Russ, what you sent me here. 2.7 million people. Is that the figure?
That was the Ronald Reagan amnesty that was passed in 1986. That was the last time someone mentioned amnesty, and I just thought it's noteworthy that the last president to implement any sort of amnesty was Ronald Reagan in the 80s.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I was confused as to what you were referring to, but that is jarring.
I hate how everyone, Republicans and Democrats, are so up Ronald Reagan's ass, and then like they don't want to do the one good thing he did. And you're like, cool. Yeah. Thanks for taking the trickle down economic stuff.
I know. Yeah. It's I had another point about what JD Vance was saying and I lost it, but we've talked about it enough. Francesca, I really, really... Oh, this is what I wanted to say really quickly. Then, this is what progressives need to get behind. yes, we do need to fund immigration more. We need to fund immigration courts and like the processing. That's the problem. But it's all going to frickin' border fascism and deportations, as opposed to creating a sane immigration system that's underfunded. It's the same thing that the right does all the time with like social programs. They implement austerity and then they blame it for not working. And then that's why they need to defund it more or militarize it more. So
what did your guest yesterday, who was formerly in the Biden administration, I forget her name, she's wonderful.
Anel Sheelan, yeah.
Yeah, where she said, she mentioned the phrase that, Biden loaded the gun and Trump is firing it when it comes to Gaza policy. Same thing with immigration.
Yeah.
Democrats load that gun and then they're like, and Republicans fire it. They just weaponize it. And they're like, well, how could this happen? You created the apparatus to do so.
It's hard to find the parts where Democrats were proposing ways to help the backlog and process these claims faster and assist them, because all that comes up is they're trying to one-up Trump earlier last year with doing the border crackdown before him.
Right. And I want to see that without the militarization. You know what I mean? Like, always have to peg DACA's pegged to militarization. DAPA, like all the proposals are always pegged to more border militarization. In other words, more death. Can we please have an immigration bill that doesn't do that doesn't try to give the right handouts? Because you see what their aim is. So what's our aim?
Exactly right.
Francesca
Thank you for
Fiorentini.
Yeah, I know. It's always good to talk to you. Stand up in San Francisco.
May 7th.
On the what date?
May 7th, Cobb's
May
Comedy.
7th.
Come through. Get your tickets, FrancescaFiorentini.com, cobbscomedy.com. Me and Matt
Power
co-headlining.
couple.
Power couple.
As you've told me I need to refer to you both as all the time.
Oh, yeah. I'll give you $1 every time you do that.
Thank you. Power couple, power couple.
Damn.
Everybody
I don't
check
have
out
that much
also the Bituation Room, Francesca on Zateo, and also Matt Lieb. You got to check out Bad Hasbara. People haven't listened to my episode with him. That was like really such a fun. Him and Daniel Mate are really great over there. So check all that out.
It's good. It's critical. It's important. I listen. It's so embarrassing to say I listen to my husband's own podcast because I can hear him screeching from the other room. So
can't get enough.
Yeah, can't get enough. Thank you,
All
Emma.
right. Thanks, Francesca. Appreciate you. All right, guys. With that, we're going to read some IMs, and then we're going to get out of here. Duber, so true. Dems need to shout out the positive vision for immigration. They totally gave up on that.
I mean, I have family that still talk about Ellis Island and the coming over here in like the early 1900s. Like, that is a mythology that's just been, left on the scrap heap because Democrats are afraid. And they've been afraid, again, like you can go back to 1996, Bill Clinton being like, I actually love cops on the border.
Yep. Drew from Illinois, what a great point, Francesca. Auschwitz was in Poland for a reason. Dave from Jamaica, but Emma, have you tried having beers? Not yet. What's that reference? It's a reference to Jank saying that you should have a beer with MAGA. Tal in Duck Store said it's just an extension of some I assume are good people that we heard from Trump on day one. Yep. Exactly. Cole from Little Rock, he wouldn't care about a white victim if a crime if they were a leftist. Yes. Colt Dog, I love how Fox hosts still don't consider themselves the media. Yeah. Free Palestine says Google 61% of Israeli men. All right, I don't know what that means. Parade of idiots. Stephen F. Face Miller did that too. Future reactionary capitalism tends towards slavery, period. Tim Poole says, Sam is having an emotional breakdown right now. I know he's not there, but I can feel it in my bones. Colin from Maryland, Van Hollen Town Hall was okay. They only took 4 questions via cards, which they could filter. No mention of Gaza at all. He did get a standing ovation after saying he was going to try to retrieve Kilmar Garcia. Okay.
Haaretz study 61% of men don't see forced sex with acquaintance as rape.
Yikes.
There was something pathological, I think, obvious from the rape narratives peddled by Zionists like Sheryl Sandberg.
Yep. Brandon from Rochester. I'm a bit disappointed in Francesca now. We need to know how to colonize space in order for our species to outlive our solar system, and the research pays dividends we can't predict the benefits of for terrestrial concerns. And I think you're being sarcastic, but I can't tell. Gold Rush. John, at least Katy Perry didn't slaughter Whitney Houston songs in space. I don't think she can even get her voice to get to a Whitney Houston level. There's like probably 2 or 3 people on the planet who wouldn't slaughter a Whitney Houston song. Elbows up. That Shatner clip is literally, and I already read that.
Just a quick update. Senator Van Hollen says he pressed the VP of El Salvador why they're still holding Abrego Garcia if there's no evidence he was part of MS-13. And Van Hollen says, and his answer was that the Trump administration is paying the government of El Salvador to keep him in CCOT. Maybe effectuate would be cancel the payments.
I hope that's on being recorded and is being used as evidence in that hearing. Progressive Blob 2028, 40% of total caseload, 700 judges currently. Let's say $70 million boost would fully fund the project. It would be like $175 million totally fund the system. If that's what he really wants to do, that's nothing in our budget.
Yeah, but we got to cut Peter Thiel's taxes.
Yep. Trilly Flops, Matt is cooking today. Well said.
I didn't sleep well last night because I got very angry, let's say, at JD Vance at about 3 a.m.
Yeah, I understand. I like how you say, let's just say very angry. Dragon Rider. In their next breath, they complain about single moms left by black and colored fathers, like it's unrelated to arresting or deporting them. Yeah, it's just another way to say black people or Latino people are inferior without saying it. You just blame the culture. It's the same way that people blame Islam, right? And not like Arab people. They're just, they have to couch their view of people of a skin color with like an ideology or a belief system. That's what we're criticizing. Brandon from Rochester. Hi, I'm Francesca. Have you guys heard that their aspiration.com guy that was the TYT host got pinched for $145 million in federal fraud charges? Jank hasn't, you wrote it like that, but I'm going to read it as Jank. Jank hasn't felt the need to cover the story for some reason. Yeah. Randy Gornberg. Who's more racist, Bannon or Miller? I mean, they're both really bad, but I would say probably Stephen Miller.
Miller is like, yeah.
Miller's a Nazi. Yeah.
Miller's the type of guy, like he's an Anders Breivik style psycho.
Linda Cheney.
Bannon's a banker planer who's also a racist.
Yeah. Linda Cheney says Ellis Island of the South. We should that should be the way, it's promoted.
I mean, the thing there is like, if you did that, you also need to address the fact that our foreign policy is displacing a lot of these people in the first place. Because the truth is, like, when people do come to this country, it actually is a benefit. It actually should benefit us if we had a system that was set up for people, but we have a setup which is set up for capital. So.
Jews for Jesus, this fascism stuff in America can always get way worse than it was in Nazi Germany, given how big we are, how we have no real military rivals, plus we have nukes. New soundboards are nice, but we really need to keep pushing resistance efforts and organizing to turn the tide. Hey, I agree. 2 more. H-Dub, yeah, Trump has been saying this lie for about 2 years that 20 million undocumented people came here under Biden, but that's just the total count that are here, and it's probably an overcount. Yeah, it's definitely an overcount. The real count that I see is 11 million.
And again, they and JD Vance and again, I keep mentioning Sagar will do this. Like, well, the election happened. The election was based on lies. You said there was criminals and stuff like that, as opposed to people embedded in communities that just don't happen to be citizens. And people don't like the people that are fathers, Bulls fans, getting sent to foreign prison camps because, you're upset about the demographic change in this country.
Yep. And the final I am of the day, Chuck Diesel. Just catching up on yesterday's show, so I'm late to the party, but the best counter to the Civil War was about states' rights argument is the Cornerstone Address. It was basically the Confederate Declaration of Independence, where they explain unequivocally that they seceded to preserve slavery and the supremacy of the white race. Thank you very much, Chuck Diesel. That's great. That's a answer to the question we had an IM yesterday about, like, somebody that they know is buying into the states' rights is the reason for the Civil War argument. So, good call.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of thing. It's like how much explicit... It's like people that say the Nazis didn't intend to do the Holocaust and it just got... like Hitler didn't sign off on it or something like that.
You mean Netanyahu, who says he got the idea from the Palestinian Grand Mufti and wasn't going to exterminate the Jews before that?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the Cornerstone speech by Alexander Stevens, Vice President of Confederacy, directly addressed slavery and its central role in the Confederacy's formation.
All right, guys. Appreciate you all. We went long today. So we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.